Welcome to the Kingsford Flash. I'm Coach Van Duzen. This is season 23, episode 7, A Coach's Corner with Michael Smithson. Well, Coach Smithson comes to us from Crystal Falls Forest Park, which has a very strong football tradition. He played quarterback for the Trojans and played in 2 state championship games. He was also active in basketball, track, golf, and various clubs while in high school. After high school, Michael went on to Northern Michigan University, where he received a bachelor's in athletic training, and then continued his education at Baylor University down in Texas, where he earned a doctorate in physical therapy. Now, Coach Smithson has a unique position in that he coaches the Flivers, but he's also an athletic trainer. So he's got a really great skill set for wandering the sideline. And I hope you enjoy our conversation. Well, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to come on today, Michael. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, just where you went to high school, college, and kind of your track towards becoming a Kingsford Fliver football coach.
Yeah. So I originally went to Forest Park for high school. Graduated from there in 2012. Then I went to St. Scholastica in Duluth, Minnesota for a year, where I played college football. Then I transferred to Northern Michigan. Then I got my bachelor's degree in athletic training from Northern Michigan. And then I went on after that and went to Baylor University and got my doctorate in physical therapy. And I've been working as a physical therapist in town for the past couple of years.
That's awesome. So you played at Crystal Falls, right? Which is steeped in football tradition. And I have a couple coaching stories about going up against the Trojans. So tell us a little bit about your time playing high school football. What was that like? And maybe some good memories you have.
Yeah, I mean, high school football was amazing. It was the biggest thing in town, especially on Friday nights in Crystal Falls. Everyone was at the football games. So it was really, if you really, I mean, everyone played. I think even at our small school, I think we had almost 20 guys in our senior class on the football team. It was just every Friday night, everyone was there. Throughout the season, it was definitely different. It was a lot of dedication. From both in season, out of season. Everyone loved the game. Everyone put their heart and soul into the game. And really just took a lot of life lessons and a lot of, really good traits from playing football throughout my career.
For sure. And do you know the history behind your socks? Because the Trojans always wear those striped socks.
The striped socks. So I know they have worn them for years. I don't know if there's a specific reason other than tradition that they wear them. I guess that is a good question, but I know it's just continuing the tradition. It's been worn for years, since the 70s or maybe even before. And so it's just been worn all the way through, and just to keep that tradition alive.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'll have to maybe talk with Santilli about that and see if he knows where the tradition. He probably started wearing them as a player there and then moved on.
He probably still wears them.
Probably still does. So I can't let you off the hook that easy, because while you were at Forest Park, you played for a couple of state championship football teams. So tell us kind of that experience, just that road to, was it the Silver Dome or was it Ford Field?
No, so that was Ford Field.
Okay.
It was. I mean, it's one of those experiences you'll never forget. And anytime you see your friends, you talk about, oh, remember when this happened? It really was. I mean, thankfully, so unfortunately, we didn't win one when I was in high school. In my 8th grade season, the varsity team won the state championship, but I got to play in a couple down at Ford Field, and even threw a touchdown as my sophomore year at Ford Field, which is just something I'll never forget. I was so nervous being on the field, but it's just I can still feel those feelings right now. Just what it was like being on the field, and it's an experience that once you get there, you'll never forget.
That's awesome. That's super awesome. So then you went on to Minnesota and played football. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so that was a really good experience. So my freshman year, I went out. Played quarterback. There were actually 10 of us on the roster, which was pretty crazy for one position, for quarterback.
10 quarterbacks. Position. Wow.
Okay. There were 10 quarterbacks. But thankfully, I made the travel squad, so we got to travel all over the country. We played Missouri, Minnesota, Illinois, North Dakota, South Dakota, really the entire Midwest. So really just getting to see that, and the experience of learning from those coaches and learning from other teammates and players was really a cool experience. We won our conference, made the NCAA playoffs my freshman year. So again, it's something that I learned so many things from as both a player, and then now kind of transition more into the coach level. Has really just helped kind of develop the game.
Oh, that's awesome. To just have those experiences, and I'm sure those friendships that you've maintained throughout the rest of your time. Whatever you do, you'll always have those
Definitely.
friendships from the state championship teams and your college teams. So you did mention it, and you have been coaching with us for a couple of years now at the freshman level, which is they take some of the most coaching there is, right? Because you get them kind of fresh out of their youth football days. So talk to us a little bit about the transition from being a player and a high level player to now you're a coach. What's that transition like, and what are some lessons learned?
Yeah, it was definitely a transition, especially the first year. First year I was helping out. I mean, I kind of just sat more in the background, kind of paid attention to how the other coaches were kind of coaching. I'd kind of put in my 2 cents here and there, but I just didn't really know exactly how I should go about doing things. I mean, I knew how to be a player. I knew the game. I knew what to do, but coaching is just kind of a totally different realm. So this year it was definitely more comfort level. It was nice to be able to kind of put the knowledge that I've learned from playing the game and from being with those other coaches, whether high school level, college level, to use to really help these young freshmen and kind of help them develop, because their freshman year is one of the most important as they go through their high school career, as far as development goes. So it's just, yeah, it took a little bit of time. It definitely did, but more comfortable as it goes on. And it's just really rewarding when you get to see those kids go from first day of practice, not knowing a whole lot, and then just their confidence level and how much they learn throughout the season at that freshman level.
Was there anything that really stood out as a surprise to you that maybe you just assumed everybody knew this particular term, or everybody knows what this, penalty means, or anything like that? Because I know for me, the longer I coach, the more I assume my players know zero, because I've had it happen where you explain something, they give you the up and down, and then they don't know what you're talking about. So anything like that specifically stick out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of instances, especially at the freshman level. I mean, I grew up starting playing in 5th grade. I played for 9 straight years. And so it was just, by the time I got to high school, I knew most of the terminology. It was just kind of learning the plays, learning the system. But a lot of the kids I know don't play until they hit that high school level. So that first freshman year, that first practice, those first few weeks of practice are really just teaching them the game. Because a lot of the terminology you use, you have to kind of break it down so they can understand. Because if you go too technical, it's goes right over the head, and it can be a very interesting scenario. So yeah, pretty much every aspect of that. There were a lot of those that I didn't realize. Well, I realized, but I didn't expect so many to not play until they got to that high school level. So it's really just learning the game still that freshman year and understanding exactly what's going on.
Yeah, we have some that don't play, and then we have a lot that play the youth football. And I'm not well versed on the youth football, but I do know their rules are quite a bit different. For instance, after you score a touchdown, there's different rules on if you pass the ball in for an extra point, or if you kick it. I think you actually get 2 points versus 1. And just some of those changes that we don't understand as high school coaches. And something kind of interesting, talking with the 8th graders here, 2 years in a row now, we call it like football school, and we talk about just the field and the hash marks. And you say these hash marks divide the field into perfect thirds. And that's surprising to the kids. And then the other thing a lot of them didn't realize is when the ball goes outside the hash marks, it always comes back to the hash marks. So it'll never be closer to the sideline than that. And, some of those really simple things that you just assume everybody knows, sometimes they just don't, and I find that interesting. Every year I find something that I thought they would know that they don't, but hey, that's why we're here, right? To teach them.
Exactly.
So you're actually in a really unique position in that you're an athletic trainer and a football coach. Now, back in season 21, episode 5, we had Dr. Tim McGuire and Morgan Anderson on, and she is an athletic trainer. And Dr. McGuire, you can speak more on him, I'm sure. But we had them on talking about strictly the athletic trainer part. So now we have you here, who is an athletic trainer and also a coach. So talk to us a little bit about that and how those two things kind of coincide.
Yeah, so it's definitely a unique situation. So I mean, having that athletic training background and working, well, I still cover some events, doing some athletic training now for the past, what has it been, 6 seasons. So I still cover that, and now kind of switching into that coaching role. A lot of times it's kind of get the unique perspective of knowing injury levels, and then also with the coaching. So it's kind of a tough position to be in sometimes when it comes to athletes and players being injured throughout the season. And then wanting to, I guess, come back to the game. And if they're told no by me, it's, well, are you the athletic trainer telling me no, or are you the coach telling me no? So
That's
that can be
interesting.
tricky at times. Yeah. But I mean, it's really nice to kind of also be those eyes and ears whether it's a road game or something happens at practice where Morgan might be away, where I can still help our kids or tape them up or get them evaluated just so they can understand what's going on without actually Morgan having to be there all the time, especially those road games where especially at the freshman level, we don't always have someone there for coverage on the road games. So it's definitely unique. It has its challenges, but I love being able to kind of hit both aspects all in one and kind of be able to help, whether it's the coaching or the sports medicine coverage through a game or practice or whatever is needed.
That's really interesting. I never thought of the point of, if you tell a player either yes, you can go back, or no, you can't, who's talking, is this because you are wearing two hats, and I have to believe there's a massive advantage for the other coaches on the sideline, just because you're able to explain more about what's actually going on with a player.
Yeah. And that was one of the nice things, especially this past season. There were a couple of instances where kids would go down in a game and we were on a road game. So they'd come off to our sideline and not tell the other athletic trainer they needed to be looked at. But I could tell something was up. So I'd go check them out and then kind of talk to the other coaches and really discuss with them kind of what's going on, and then be able to talk to their parents and really kind of make it down that way, where a lot of times on one of those road games, if a kid has a head injury, especially, they'll just come to your own sideline where there isn't someone to look at them, wait a few plays and try to go back in. So it is kind of nice being able to do both roles all in one, especially on game days when something like that could happen.
Oh, for sure. And the fact that you have a relationship with those players outside of them just coming to see you when they're hurt has to have a massive advantage. Also for a player understanding that they are, I guess, mechanically able to go back. And yes, it might hurt a little bit, but you are okay. So that has to help a lot.
It does. Yeah. And then, I mean, with some of those games too, where just kind of having their understanding of, okay, yes, he's telling me I can't go in, and it's not just the athletic trainer telling me I can't go in. Oh, coach is saying it's okay if I don't go back in because I'm hurt. Right. So there's some of those times too, where the kid, it's worried, oh, I want to get back in. But it's okay. Coach told me it's okay. I'll be okay if I have to sit because I'm injured. So I think they appreciate that too. It makes the players feel a little better where, okay, yep, I'm not worried where coach is going to be mad at me because I'm not playing. He's the one that told me that it's okay, that I'm injured and I have to sit. So it's kind of nice in that role too.
Yeah. And that's, I got to call out your brother a little bit, because he was on episode 11 as well. And he had kind of said something along the same lines of, we want you to go from crutches to cleats, was his phrase, as fast as possible, but in a safe way.
Exactly. Yeah. We want you to be able to be back on the field, on the court, no matter what it is, as quick as you can. But we also want to make sure you're not going to injure yourself even further by doing it. So.
Right. So we know at football practice and on game nights, we kind of know your role there, both as a coach and an athletic trainer. What are you doing during the day?
So during the day, I'm working in the clinic as a physical therapist. So I'm actually at the Marshfield UP Rehab Clinic right next to the high school. So it's nice, even for practice days, I can just walk straight from the clinic over to the field. But I work as a physical therapist. I'm there all 5 days of the week, all day, every day, until practice hits. And then I usually head over. But seeing patients from anywhere from probably 8 years old to 98 years old, really in the clinic. So it's quite a wide range there, all different conditions. Then once we come over to the field, it's a little bit more of that mix of kind of more the athletic population at all times. So yeah, it's nice to get a little mix of everything throughout a day, especially when football season is going on.
Sure. So is there anything that's very specific to the high school aged athletes that maybe you don't see with older patients or younger patients?
I would say with the high school athletes, a lot of times they recover pretty quick just because they're younger, quicker recovery. The one thing I got to put in my little 2 cents here is sometimes the high school athletes don't always do what they're supposed to, where a lot of times the older patients do. They listen
Shocker.
to us again. Yeah, exactly. But so I would say those are the biggest two things. I mean, as far as recovery itself goes, the younger athletes recover pretty quick, unless it's something obviously serious that requires surgery. And then, yeah, the home programs is the other part where it's important that they do stuff outside of the clinic. And sometimes our high school kids, well, we know as coaches, don't always do what they should. And you as a teacher as well. But
Right.
yeah. So I'd say those are kind of the bigger things. A lot of the times the high school kids are striving to get back to their events, whether it's an athlete or someone even just trying to get back to marching in the band or whatever it is.
Sure.
Where a lot of times our older people just want to be able to walk and do their daily activities again, pain-free. So a little bit of a difference, but overall just trying to help everyone get better and get back to what they want to do either way.
Yeah, that's great. So having been a high-level football player and now being a part of the Fliver Nation and being immersed in the win-win-win, what's some advice you have for the younger Flivers coming up? I have a bunch of 8th graders. They're all fired up to play Fliver football, not really knowing what they're getting into. We're trying to get them educated on what the win-win-win means. And this is how the weight room works. And this is how we operate as Flivers. So what's some advice you might have for those younger players coming up through the system, either as a coach or as an athletic trainer?
I would say the biggest advice I would say is work hard in everything you do. I mean, whether it's in school, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's at practice, whether it's at your job. I mean, whatever it is, you just work hard, push yourself. Sometimes you won't always know, especially when you're young, what exactly you're doing. Don't be worried to ask. Don't be worried to ask your coaches, your teachers, if it is a healthcare provider, whatever you are, don't be afraid to ask the older people around you who have more experience and have gone through what you're going through. Like you said, especially for the athletes, hitting the weight room young is important. Getting stronger, getting faster. The more you get into kind of that repetition and getting into that regimen when you're young, the better it's going to be the older you get. Just really being dedicated to everything you do, especially through the program, is going to be huge. So it all kind of comes together, that working hard and being dedicated and putting everything you do towards that one goal of being a good teammate and winning at every level. Like we say, it's winning in the community, the classroom, and on the field. So, and it takes a lot to get there. So putting it all in when you're young really helps in the long run.
That's some great advice, and not just on the football field. And I'm glad you brought in those other things. Whether you're at a job, working hard, being dedicated and asking questions, if you're in a marriage, if you're dealing with your kids, all of those things are just great life lessons. And we talk about, obviously we want to win on the field, but if these young men turn out to be great members of the community and great workers and husbands and fathers, that's really the end goal when it comes, from the coaching standpoint.
Exactly. We want to make them the best they can be in everything they do.
Exactly. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to visit with us, and we'll see you in the weight room soon.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Coach Michael Smithson. That'll do it for season 23, episode 7 of the Kingsford Fliver Flash. As always, I ask that you go on YouTube, click that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You can also follow us on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Rocket Cast, Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find the Kingsford Fliver Flash. Till next time, this is Coach Van Duzen. Win in the classroom, win in the community, and win on the field.